Bible says that the trumpet will sound.
Let Jesus take care of the sin problem.
It is really a heaven solution, a God solution.
That's our emphasis. So we have assurance of salvation.
And there is no force on earth that can withstand what God is about to do.
Time for another study today. We're down to the final study of the week. We're looking at rest in Jesus for the next 3 months. Today we are looking at living in a 24/7 society. I could say living in a 24/7 society. But before we go into our study this morning, we are going to offer a word of prayer. I am going to offer a word of prayer, and Pastor Joseph will read to us our memory text or our guide text for our study this week. Let us bow our heads. Eternal God and our Father, we want to thank you for the blessings of the week. We pray, God, that you will guide us as we go into the study of your word today. And as we pursue those questions that have not been asked or answered for the week, we pray, Lord, that you will guide our thoughts and give us the answer that is deserving for the things we ask in Jesus' name.
Our memory text is taken from Psalm 84, verse 2. It says, "My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God." The New King James Version.
As the topic says, Pastor, living in a 24/7 society, and as I said, it could be living in a 365, 24/7 society. The clock ticks. It's moving as the clock keeps ticking, literally on the wall, except that it doesn't have any battery. And so it seems to be suggesting that there isn't enough time in a day for us to get our task accomplished based on all the tasks that we have committed ourselves to or engaged in, all the activities we have engaged in. Is that so? And if so, why is it that we are living in a world and have to be moving hurriedly and hurriedly in that way?
No, I believe that God had it right from the very beginning. He designed it so that there will be 24 hours in a day, that you'll have 7 days in a week, but he carved it out so that you would have time every day to rest, and that you will have time at the end of every week to rest. It is just that our life have become hurried, clouded with a lot of activities and our desire to accomplish so many things in a short amount of time. Also, it reflects even our lack of strategy and planning for accomplishing things within a specific time. And so it seems rushed and hurried for inadequate for a number of people, merely because we have not taken the time out to be very strategic in terms of our time. I think about the passage in Psalm 90, even though it talks about your years, it also is very pertinent in terms of teaching us. The King James Version says, teach us to number our days. Another way you could put it is, teach us how to maximize the time that we have. And so that is what people need to do, be able to maximize the time that they have available to them, rather than just be too busy to get the best or the most or the value out of the time that we have.
Pastor, you chose a very important text there. Teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom, but some of us say that whatever our hands find to do it with all our might. And some of us are trying, Pastor. Some of us are trying to balance work, church, community. But it seems as a jigsaw puzzle that's very complicated, or one of those box puzzle that most people can't solve. And so we go ahead hurriedly and hurriedly along the way, and not being able to get in sync with the time. We are like a video out of sync with the audio. And that's how our life is going. And we cannot seem to put it right. And even for us as Seventh-day Adventists, some of us have the same challenge because our life on Sabbath is as busy as our life in the week. Did God intended it to be like that?
You made reference to the fact, whatever your hand finds to do, do it all your might. I think a good understanding of that would be to make sure that you use your best intellect, that you strain as much energy as is needed for the task to get it done. I think that would be the task. Yes, I agree with you that we try to crowd everything into one space of time. And whenever we do that, what we do is to end up with diminishing return. In other words, we don't do it as effectively. We don't do it with a high degree of excellence. We just do it because it needs to be done and we need to get it done now. I think God's expectation is that we would take time to accomplish the task that is placed before us, and that we accomplish it to the best of our ability. And if we only take our time and utilize it and strategize effectively in order to get things done, then we would see that we can draw more out of a day than we have been doing. I think creation is a very good example of how God intends for us to be able to maximize the time that is available to us. All of us know that God could have simply commanded and everything would have been created. But God chose to segment his creation. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, day 4, day 5, day 6. Things that God could have done just with a snap of the finger. He took time to do them on each day. And at the end of it, he declared that it was good. At the end of everything, it was very good. It is not the quantity of what we do, but the quality as well. In our commercialized, factory-driven kind of mentality, we want to have a lot of things on the assembly line, coming off of the assembly line at a particular point in time. So we drive people to work 24 hours, or we create 2 shifts or 3 shifts so that people are working around the clock. And I'm saying that that's not how God designed it. God designed it that we should take time out and achieve some degree of refreshing, recuperation, refocus, so that we can be effective and excellent in all that we do.
Pastor, there are 2 questions I'll give you, and I expect you to take them in that order. What is rest? What is rest? In the context of our lesson this week, Old and New Testament, what is rest? And secondly, is it possible that we can synchronize our lives in such a way that we can stop running against the clock and end up not being tired at the end of each week, going into the other week? Those are my 2 questions.
So the lesson gives us a very broad perspective with regards to what rest is. They draw the definition from the Old Testament. They draw the definition from the New Testament. From the very beginning in Genesis 2 and 3, we see that rest has to do with the cessation of work, but it also has to do with taking a holiday, taking a break, taking time off, removing yourself from the mundane things that you have been doing or removing your focus from the things that have occupied your mind during the week, just to move away from it. Rest also kind of give the indication that you are settled. That is, when you take time away, that there is a certain degree of comfort and peace and tranquility that attend your coming aside. Rest is designed to for you to experience relief and quietness. As one passage would say, that rest would also mean finding peace. And so those are some look and definition of that encompasses the whole idea of rest, where God wants you to be able to find a space that allows for rejuvenation, for quietness, but for peace, satisfaction, tranquility, a break from the things that you're accustomed to doing. That essentially would be rest. I think to some degree, research has also shown that the shifting from one set of activity to another, you can experience some degree of rest. So let's say I'm a mason and every day I'm out there laying blocks, mixing concrete. But then comes Sabbath. I move my focus from the labor of the blocks and the mortar to a more focus on caring for others, worshiping or looking. It might seem to involve some exertion of energy and focus and some mental acumen as well. But because I've shifted focus from the things that I've been doing for the last 6 weeks, there is a certain degree of refreshing also that comes. So it is not the intention that the Sabbath or the rest should be at a time when you exclusively become inactive, as it were. But it is a time when you become intentionally focused on the things of God and on God himself.
But Pastor, I do that. So you're going to have to, and I'm sure there are other persons out there saying they're doing that. But at the end of the Sabbath, they still feel weary and they still feel weary, exhausted, and as if they're waiting for that special time to come when they can get release and relief.
Yeah, again, if you approach the Sabbath, and we're talking about particularly the Sabbath, which is the time that God carved out for his people and for himself. If we look at that, I am saying to you that if you approach the things that you do on Sabbath with a particular mindset, it doesn't leave you tired, burdensome, overwhelmed, challenged, exhausted, but it can leave you refreshed, rejuvenated, excited about the prospect of facing another week. Most of us, especially when we are involved in ministry, see the things that we do on Sabbath as being laborious, as being routine, as being frustrating, as being sapping your energy. The desire for God is for you to enter into the Sabbath with a sense of joy and excitement and hope, and the fact that you have more time to connect directly with God allows you to be able to feel that refreshing. Now, I'm not in any way apologizing for the fact that we have crowded a lot of things into the Sabbath, not even allowing for physical rest for some people. I know that there was a time when, even as a layperson, that I would be at church all Sabbath, all morning from 9 until 12, as the case may be. Then by the time you go home and get lunch, you want to come back early, whether it be for Bible class or for in preparation for AY and those kind of things. And so practically the entire day, to a certain extent, is spent within the church compound. I'm saying that there are times when we can overdo that, but I'm saying that the believer who approaches the Sabbath with a different mindset will not come away from the Sabbath feeling exhausted, drained, deficient, but will feel a burst of energy that is given to face the coming week.
The constant pressure of being on top of things, being available physically or virtually all the time, and trying to live up to ideals that are neither realistic nor God-given can make people sick emotionally, physically, and spiritually. How can your church become a welcoming place for worn-out, tired people yearning for rest? How can the church become a place for worn out, tired people yearning for rest.
Okay, so I would say that once the church needs to know what the needs of people that they're ministering to. If there's an initiative, there's a program that's designed to minister to the needs of the people, it ought to minister to that need and not become a burden to the person. And so one of the things that people require is pray for family, pray for their own health or social well-being, pray for job. But join those people into a prayer session day in, day out, day in, day out. It is likely that you will weary those individuals. And so rather than helping them, you frustrate them, right? And so the church needs to be, as I said, I keep using the word, the church needs to be strategic in terms of its approach to meeting the various needs of individuals. And one of the needs that we're trying to meet right now virtually is the need to be able to help people to understand more fully the word of God, how to expound that, how to expose people to the everlasting gospel so that people can respond. Again, we need to be very strategic in how we do that and not frustrate people and not exhaust people and not utilize or draw the energy from everybody. I think we within the South Leeward Conference have kind of sensed that. And so many of the things that we probably would have started to do virtually, we have pulled back from them. So you'll see one director might have had a program that he probably has canceled or deferred to a latter part of the year when he thinks that others might not be so taxed, being on the platform all the while. And so those are some of the things that the church can do. Have a sense of the needs of the individuals that they're ministering to and not feel that they have to be spoon feeding or pushing something in front of people's face all the time to entice them to eat. Because if you eat every time somebody puts something in front of your face, you're gonna get obese, right? And obesity is not good. So the church needs to stop, assess what it is doing, even assess its effectiveness in terms of what it is doing. Consider the impact that it is having on people. There are a number of things that can affect people, not only the tiredness, but the fact that a person has to be staring down at a computer screen at a very close distance over a long period of time affects a person's vision and sight and so on, creating headache and all that kind of stuff. Those are things that you need to be mindful of. The Apostle Paul left us a very good lesson. That is, in everything that we do, we ought to exercise self-control. It is a word that is translated temperance. We must be temperate in all things. In other words, in all that we do, we need to exercise that level of control. But some of us ignore it. And I need to get something done. Another director needs to get something done. Another pastor needs to get something done. Another church needs to get something done. And even church members themselves put themselves at that exposure because they come to service at Jennings. Then when they finish with that service, they go on to another service in another church in the conference or even in another conference in the union or in the division, as the case may be. So because it is readily available, people lock themselves in and do not actually maximize the time that they have available. And we believe that because something is religious or spiritual, that we should lock onto it and never let it go, not realizing that God expects us to exercise a high degree of control in terms of how we expose ourselves, even to spiritual things.
Pastor, I'm going to slide a quick one across. You're not expecting you to comment. But when I went to Pathfinders was a fun place. I think the curriculum has taken away the fun. And so even that can make life more harrowing. It is becoming more like a school than a place where people can come and get to know Jesus in bits and pieces, but at the same time be part of a community that eventually they will fall in love with and then grow into a fellowship with the one who develops that community. But I don't want to answer that this morning.
No, I want to answer it because listen. Pathfinding is still fun. It is still fun. It is the way some people handle curriculum that makes it dragged and laborious and studious. But there are very exciting ways counselors and directors can get pathfinders to be excited about even biblical studies. You know, sometimes you don't have to be sitting down in church and going through the experience. You can get the same thing into those young people by just simply taking them on a walk from the church up to Dunning, and they will grasp more in that experience than sitting down in the church. And so it is the leaders that need to bring the fun back into pathfinding rather than that the fun has gone out of pathfinding. I give that there are a lot more that's on the curriculum, but you have to also appreciate, as we are saying, that the times to which we have come mean that we need to deliver to our community and to our church young people who are at the cutting edge of the time in which they live. And so there are certain things that are basic that we don't want to give up, but there are certain things that are contemporary that we want to expose our pathfinders to. And so they have to rise to the challenge rather than seeing it as being added labor. Okay.
Yeah, so Pastor's coming to another part because the question says, is it possible for us to be too busy? Now, I wanted to discuss for a short while before we get into that question, the whole context of how we engage our people, because we're talking about church, we're talking about life in general. And I sometimes have 3 meetings clashing the same time in a day as a result of COVID, and everybody has gone virtual. Just thinking of the fact that you had to miss 2 important meetings and you only could go into 1 is stressful enough. Even our students, some parent teachers are complaining that the students put the tablets on or the computers on, and sometimes they probably gone to town. When they're calling for the student, they're nowhere to be found because what they're required to do sitting at a computer is too demanding. 20 minutes of their time is all what's happened. And so they too are getting bogged down and getting disconnected with what is really going on in the world.
May I make this submission to you? And I know it happens from administrative level at all levels coming down, where people insist that you be here, there, and everywhere. I'm saying that as first elder of your church, you don't have to sit on every committee because every committee reports to you, right? And if they're reporting to you, it means that whatever transpires in the committee needs to come to you. So you don't have to be in that committee because it will eventually get to you. The structure of the church says that if there's a subcommittee in the church, that somehow the first elder has to be on all of them, or somehow the pastor has to be on all of them. And I'm saying that, yes, that might come to me, but as a pastor, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I run a district board and the elder runs the local church board. So when you discuss whatever you're discussing in your local church, when we come to the district board, then I get the information of what is happening in your local church. When the Sabbath school superintendent sits on the Sabbath school council and discuss things for Sabbath school, when you come a leaders meeting, they share that with you. And so those are strategies that people can employ not to overextend themselves and feel that they have to be at every meeting and in every activity in order to be informed. If we follow an orderly structure, information can come to you in a proper way that allows you to manage the church in a most efficient way. And we need to help members to understand that. I generally say to people, when I get back to lay work, I would not take more than 1 or 2 offices because it doesn't allow you to be as efficient in ministry as if if you have 4, 5, 6, 7, because you can't give your best in those scenarios. And so anybody what I would say to anybody, if you have multiple ministries that you're working with, delegate, and then create a hub where those individuals who have been given delegated responsibility can come together and create an informed caucus to move everybody forward, right? And so it is, yes, another point that we need to make right here under this question is that, listen, no preach for 120 years. John the Baptist started preaching this gospel. Peter preached this gospel. Paul preached this gospel. Timothy preached this gospel. Hundreds of preachers have been preaching this gospel over the years. The world is not going to suffer because you can only preach for 40 years. Okay? And so you can't finish the work in your lifetime. You can't. Okay? And the work will always be there to be done. It seems to be the same message that Christ is saying to his disciples in Mark 6, because the lesson makes the comment that there were many opportunities still there for missionary work to be done. As a matter of fact, Jesus himself says, lift up your eyes, look at the field, it is ready for harvest. But even though Jesus is saying that the field is ready for harvest, he's still turning to the disciples and saying, come and rest a while. So even if you see the work with your eyes, you need to take rest. Don't operate as if, as long as there's work to do, I'm going to be busy. No, because if you keep busy, the work is going to still be there. You're going to be dead and somebody else is going to do the work. So God is saying, listen, take some rest and be effective in what you're doing. And if you don't get what you need to get done now, I will raise somebody else up to get the work done. Right? And so that's, I think, is a takeaway for the church, for church leaders, for individuals in the community. You need to be as effective as you can be, not to burn yourself out, not to try to burn the candles, as we say, at both ends, but try to be effective, try to be strategic, try to plan well so that you can get more, you can maximize the time that you have and be more effective. Okay? And what you don't accomplish today, there's always a second day of creation.
Those are words.
Yes, go ahead.
Not only for the church, but for even our secular life. You know, some persons,
yes, sure.
Some persons work for the government, for some private sector, and they want to be awarded Employee of the Month, Employee of the Year, and so they drive themselves over time, but they don't live to enjoy their pension or even to get it. And so those are instructive, very instructive.
Yes. Some institutions don't value the appearance of productivity rather than the essence of productivity. So that if somebody appeared to be always on the job or always hustling and bustling there, but they're not getting as much accomplished, right? So an employer would reward somebody who works overtime or seem to be putting in more time, but they're not rewarding the worker who, even though he doesn't work overtime, accomplishes more in the time that he spends on the job than the person who works overtime. And so we cannot nurture bad habits in terms of our work ethics, as the case may be.
Looking at the Eden context of rest, is it necessary for me to rest again on the Sabbath if I'm on a vacation?
Yes, because the rest, the Sabbath rest, not only speaks to physical rejuvenation, but it speaks to a spiritual connection. So that when Sabbath comes, even though I'm on vacation, that is God time. Within the life of a Christian, I dare say for anybody else, on the seventh day, it is time for you and God, right? And so you might be physically resting, but you also need a connection with a God. And also, our relationship with God drives us to have relationship with others, so that attending church services that allows us the opportunity to fellowship and share faith with one another and strengthen one another is critical to the rest that God expects on the Sabbath, right? So yes, I'm on vacation, but I'm not going to lose that connection with God. I'm not going to lose that connection with my fellow believers, because that connection creates an atmosphere that allows me to be rejuvenated both physically and spiritually.
Two questions I have for you, remaining pastor. And one, the last one is going to be, and that is, you have the rest of death, you have the rest of the Sabbath, and you have rest, naturally, retirement probably from your life in work. Should people plan for that? That's the second question. But the first one is, everything is moving faster. Aircraft are moving faster. Boats are moving faster. Cars are moving faster. Chains, they have rocket chains, are moving faster. But yet still every day, if you travel to these first world countries, people are just hustling and bustling. And we have become the same in our society today. People can never move fast enough for us. We become impatient and angry. Where are we hustling to? And what would be your advice to us?
The world will slow down if we slow down, okay? So the train moves fast because we want to move fast. Plane moves fast because we want to move fast. If we slow down, the world will slow down. We are discovering that if the world slows down, it is better for the health and the longevity of the world, of those who inhabit the world. We notice that our hurried life has been affecting our planet, has been affecting our environment, has been affecting our health. Therefore, if we slow down, if we just slow down, we will discover that our environment will, just during this COVID pandemic, it was discovered, if I'm not mistaken, a part of Italy, where fish, they said, had not been in that area of the stream for a long time, or in a canal for a long time. And because people had to be shut in because of the pandemic, the lockdown, etc., they saw that these creatures begin to reappear. Okay, so that the very fact that we were slowed down, not by our own choice. Plants, they said, began to show up again. The birds began to return. The park in New York, etc. Birds that you have not seen for a long time, just because the pandemic allowed us to slow down. Can you imagine what would happen globally if the world just slowed down a little? And so that is what I'm saying. We don't have to be hurried in order to be effective and transformational, but we need to be deliberate and strategic. And if we do that, we can accomplish great things. As I move to your second question, I'll say, yes, we need to plan. We need to plan our rest. Science is showing that if you rest between a certain time period in the night, that your body is able to rejuvenate easier, that your immune system gets a boost depending on the time that you go to sleep and the amount of rest that you get. Also, they're discovering that if you have a routine in terms of what the time that you go to sleep, that your body responds more easily to rest. So if the body knows that you're accustomed to go to rest at 7 o'clock, that the body sets itself up to go and relax and move into that phase of giving you that rest. So those are things that as individuals we need to strategize on in terms of preparing for our rest, making sure that they're less light, making sure that there are no electronic devices that are on in terms of the time that we are resting, etc. Even as we prepare for the Sabbath, you would notice that one of the things that is biblical is a whole idea of a preparation day, a day when you set yourself up to make sure that you are prepared for the rest that you're entering into. So that's a big thing in the Bible in terms of being prepared for the Sabbath rest. And so finally, for the rest that comes for those whose body have grown weary and aged. That is something that we need to prepare for, because in preparation for that, we have to make sure that we are anchored in Jesus Christ, that we are locked into him, that death doesn't come and catch us on our ways, but that is a deliberate act that we have in our lives, that, hey, listen, if death comes today, I am ready. I'm sealed by God. I am prepared to meet him when the life giver comes. So in every aspect, I would say that for every aspect of rest, your daily rest, your weekly rest, and your eternal rest is something that you need to prepare adequately for.
So, Pastor, as you go out, there are friends of ours, some of them wondering what we are talking about this morning and trying to get the gist. What would you say to them that God is calling us to in this week of study?
I believe that during this week of study, God is saying, be still and know that I am God. Stop, pause. Don't be too excited. Don't believe that if you stop now and engage with me, that you're going to lose anything. Because I am God. I am in control of the universe. I'm in control of your life. I'm in control of time. If you submit to me, and if you submit to my will, you will discover the joy of knowing that experience. And so I'm saying to you, whoever you are, you might think yourself not a Christian. You might think yourself not a believer. But if you were to just follow the principles that God has laid down so far as rest for his creation, you will discover that peace and joy, you're less stressed, you are less anxious, you feel more peaceable, you feel more relaxed, there's more joy. You can now see the beauty in things around you. You are more optimistic about life. Just stop and experience the rest that God is pointing us to. And if you do that, you will see how it transforms your life. I want to invite you today to just take a step closer to Jesus Christ. Make sure that you hold on to him. Even those who do not believe in God are saying that one of the essential things that we must have if you're going to have a healthy life is a trust in a divine power and rest. Okay? Those are things that the Bible has already enunciated and said they are valuable to your existence, to your peace, to your tranquility, to your happiness. I'm saying to you, embrace God now. Embrace his word now. Do as Job has instructed. Acquaint now yourself with him and be at peace.
As we go out today, may we exercise our physical distancing, always sanitize, and remember to always wear our mask. COVID is real, and the life you save may be yours or someone you love. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
When I get to heaven, gonna walk with Jesus. When I get to heaven, gonna see his face.
Do you hear that, boys and girls? It's almost here. Our first ever Children's Crusade under the theme, Let's Go to Heaven Together. We are inviting all the boys and girls from the church and community. Oh yes, we have so many exciting activities just for you. Come out and experience a puppet show, craft time, health nuggets, and a special night to have fun in galore, and whole lot more. Beginning at 6:30 p.m. from 18th July and ending with activities on Saturday, 31st July 2021. Let's learn about how we can be saved, no matter how small we are. I can't wait to see you there. So many rewards in store. Be there.
Every day in every way, I'm gonna let my